I gotta tell myself not to look at the computer screen. Mic check, mic check, mic check. We are live. Tune in. You gonna put the chat up there? All right, all right. Let the live go for a little bit. Before we get into it, just want to give a couple shout outs. Shout out to my nephew Devontae for the IT work. It's always a blessing having you around, brother. Shout out to my brother Saint, my brother Swan, my brother Corey McGowan. Appreciate y'all for always, coming along on this ride with me on the podcast. Want to give a shout out to New Outlook events. It's going down February 8th, Saturday, the Black and White Gala. I suggest you go to Eventbrite, look it up, and get you a ticket. It's the hottest ticket in town. Put your best dress on, and if you're looking for a thing, a date night with your significant other, I suggest the Black and White Gala for you. It's gonna be fancy, dress up, live music. Gonna have a fashion show there, runway, all the good stuff, man. So put your best dress on. Go to eventbrite.com, Black and White Gala by New Outlook Events. I think that's pretty much it. Welcome everybody to a new installment of Conversations with Olu. I am Olu. Thank you for joining, and thank you for always supporting everything I got going on. This one I'm really excited about, this testimony. For anybody who knows this premise of the Conversations with Olu, I like to let things happen organically. I don't go out looking for these stories. They kind of just come to me. So if you could tell about the last few, if you remember the last few episodes we did, everything you heard was organically. It all happened organically, and that's what I'm all about. And that's what we have here tonight. We have the one and only. I'm going to let you tell your titles and all that good stuff because you got so much going on out here. I don't want to miss anything. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Conversations with Olu, Miss Jody Pagan. Welcome. You just put that mic closer to you so we can.
Hello.
Welcome. Tell the people your name, or you know your name, but what do you do for a living and what you got going on, and then we'll get into your whole testimony.
My name is Jody Pagan. I work at PWH Realty. I'm a realtor here in Polk County.
If you're looking for a home, forever home, give our girl a call here. Are you still owning your own cleaning business? Or
yeah, I also do have my own cleaning business called His and Hers. It's actually cleaning and pressure washing.
Okay. And everything's going good with that. Everything keeps you busy.
Yeah. I'm trying to shy more away from it, but it's there.
Yeah, concentrate more on the whole
on the real
estate thing. How long you been doing that?
Real estate or the cleaning?
The real estate.
Real estate, it's been a little over a year now.
Oh, okay.
So, yep.
All right, man.
Yep.
So that's definitely an interesting field to get into. I know it's a lot of pros and cons when it comes to
43% of realtors quit this year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I told my wife that I think she would make a good, realtor because, she's so smart and she knows numbers well, and she's a good conversationalist.
Yeah.
I'm trying to step my vocabulary up a little bit. But I know that it's a demanding field because, when you're hot, but when you're not, it's cold.
Yeah, right. Well, this year has been a really tough year for a lot of realtors, but it's picking up.
Yeah.
It's definitely picking up.
And the market, but right now it's a seller's market, right?
It's more right now. It's more of a buyer's market. Not because of the percentages, but because there's a lot more houses on the market.
Right, but the price of those houses are.
They're starting to come down.
Well, I needed to hear that.
They're starting to come down.
I'm glad because I've been waiting for that to come down.
Yeah, they are.
Me and my wife, we toy with the idea of moving, but like I can sell this house.
Let me know. I got you.
Yeah, you'll definitely be one of the ones I call. It's just like, we sell the house and then what, then because the housing is so expensive, it's like, man.
With the equity that you've got, because you've been here a while.
Yeah, so. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So if you're tuning in, please feel free to leave comments. We are watching the chat here. If you have any questions for Jody, family members, friends, she's going to be an open book tonight, right? And mostly any questions,
yeah,
we'll answer.
Mostly.
Yeah. Jody's story is very inspiring. A lot went on with her story. So out of respect for, outside parties, we won't get into details, so watch your questions. But, you ready to get into it?
Yeah.
All right. So, again, welcome to Conversation with Olu. I am him, Olu. Jody, first thing I want to do is let's start off with your early life. Like, where were you born? Where'd you grow up at? And
born and raised in Polk County.
Yeah, born and raised in Polk County here in
Hank City area.
Yeah.
Hank City and Winter Haven. So.
Okay. So how was your childhood at an early age?
Well, I was raised by a single mom. My dad was in my life too, but I lived with my mom. About 7 years old, she gave her life to the Lord. So I was living in a Christian home. Mm-hmm. I had a dad who was about that life, though. Yeah. So it was kind of like going back and forth, It was, I would have to say I had a pretty good childhood.
Yeah.
Pretty good childhood.
How were you in school and all that? Early school.
I was in trouble in school.
Yeah. Since kindergarten
I got kicked out about 9th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
9th grade. What about before 9th grade? So like elementary.
I was good school. Elementary, middle school.
Yeah.
Got my first fight in middle school. That's about the only trouble I was in. And then
your community that you grew up in, was it poverty stricken? Was it blue?
Yeah.
I like to say blue collar, right? We live in neighborhoods that are not actually, poverty stricken or in the hood or whatever, but it's working class people.
Definitely low income neighborhoods.
A lot of drugs, violence, stuff like that, bad influences.
Not too much violence, I wouldn't say, but a lot of bad influences, drugs.
Yeah. So with that being said, so your testimony on Facebook did talk about drugs.
Yep.
You were addicted to drugs. Mm-hmm. At what age you started?
I started doing drugs probably around 12 years old.
What got you into say, hey, I'm going to try these drugs?
Yeah, actually the neighborhood I lived in had a lot of people in the neighborhood that were young and doing drugs, and I don't really know what triggered me to just be the person that said, hey, I'm going to go try that. But I think a lot of it had to do with just the environment I grew up in.
You're right.
There was like a switch between, like I said, a godly home and a party environment.
Right.
And I think growing up, I always seen my mom as like this. She was a Christian and she was a single mom, but she was struggling. Mm-hmm. And then I seen the other side where it was like, oh, they always got money in their pocket.
Yeah.
And they ain't Christians and they ain't living for Christ and they always got money in their pocket. So it was like that thing that always told me like, maybe I don't want to live this way. Maybe I want to live that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and that wasn't always.
Oh, I learned real quick that I should have been living that way the whole time and not that way. So
how are you? I'm sorry, when you first?
About 12 years old when I first started.
So what was your drug of choice? What you first?
I first started smoking weed, but I was doing meth at 12, 13 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow. So it didn't take long for me to go into like,
so you
really,
went
I was
full right in.
All the way.
Wow. Yeah. So, how long were you into it before what I want to know is like, so when your family found out about this, like, How did that
People used
go?
to go to my mom and be like, "Hey, your daughter's doing this, this, and that." My mom was like, "No, she's not."
Yeah. She didn't
want to believe it.
Right.
And when she finally found out, I was 13 years old. I ran away from home. So I was actually supposed to go to church camp. And instead of going to church camp, I ran away with my boyfriend. So I ran away, and that was like the start of like really me going fully the wrong way.
Right.
I would run away. I ran away multiple times as a teenager.
So when your mom found out about it, when she finally knew without a shadow of a doubt her daughter was on drugs, how did that pan out? How did that go?
It was a lot of arguing. My mom used to go into. She used to be. My mom's a prayer warrior. So anybody that knows my mom prays. So it turned into to most people, they'd be like, "This woman's crazy," but my mom would be like, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," and I'd be like, "No!" I would be like manifesting, really, like, and she'd be like, "I rebuke you," and she would just be praying, and I can remember as a teenager just going, "Man, this woman is so crazy."
Yeah.
And
because you're young, it's like,
I'm like, "Oh, would she just quit?"
I remember my mom wasn't quite the Bible pusher like that, but there were nights when I got home and the Bible be open to a certain section. It's like, read this, and we visit church a lot, She
used to leave me little notes on the table. "Companion of fools will suffer much," and she'd leave like those scriptures down for me, and I'd just be like, "Oh, here we go again."
So here we are. Your mom finds out you're drugs, and you ran away at what age was it?
13 was the first time, but I ran away multiple times.
Yeah, left and come
Growing
back. Where would you go when you ran away?
All over.
Yeah.
Lakeland, Arbondale.
Anywhere,
everywhere.
In the best of environments.
Yes.
And
yes.
living a good life.
Yeah. That I thought was a good life.
Yeah.
Thought I was a thug.
I think we all go to that. Not everybody, but there's a lot of us, especially people who come from where we come from. That was like, that's the life you want to live. And
I don't know what it was. I think I dealt with a lot of just reject. I think really it goes back to like rejection and things that happen to you like when you're a child. Because I say I had a pretty good childhood, but if I want to be real transparent, I was molested at 7 years old. Maybe that's what triggered something in me to maybe go the other direction, far away from the right direction.
So I'm sorry, let me cut you off. But so when that happened, was that someone that was supposed to be like a positive impact in your life, or on that positive side, like your mother's side, or
it was just a neighbor? Of my grandma's.
Oh, okay.
So that happened. I was about 7, and then they say like when things happen to you when you're little, you turn for the good or you turn for the worst.
Right.
I turned for the worst.
Yeah, well, and a lot of times when I hear people testimony of drug addiction, a lot of that, especially women, that's where it stems from. Being molested, abused, sexually abused, and that's where most drug addictions, as far as women go, that's the story. That's where it all starts, and that's just the way it is, and unfortunate. Yeah. So that could have been the spark that said, "Okay, I'm going this route."
Yeah. Could have been.
Yeah. I mean, is there any other like major thing that happened to you? Like
not
abused,
when I was little,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, besides seeing like my dad party and my mom not, and him always with money and having fun, and her seeming like she's struggling all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
We got Gina Strickland says hello.
Hey.
My buddy Joel. So I want to. Can you describe the impact that the drug addiction had on your life and relationship at that time?
I think at that age, like in my teenage years, I didn't realize how much it affected me. Like I just thought it was the norm. You know, I just thought this was what you do when you're a teenager. You party, you get high, you run around, you do whatever.
Right.
I didn't realize, you know, that I was doing anything out of the norm.
Yeah, because everybody's around you doing the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so what was a time where, like the first time, were you arrested?
Yes.
Or got in trouble?
Yep,
So
yep.
your drug addiction led you to being arrested a few
Yep.
times. The first time was, what was the charges?
The
Or
first time I got arrested, I didn't get out for 8.5 years. So.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna get into that.
It literally was the first time I got arrested. So,
Okay.
I was 19 years old, and drugs had led to, you know, me being around a bunch of people
Yeah.
that were no good.
Right,
No
right.
good.
So before we get to the whole,
Okay.
because that's a whole section of your story. Corey, shout out to Corey McGowan. Gina says
Hey,
hi,
Corey.
Jody. So you know here you are addicted to meth, and that's pretty much it. Meth and weed,
Pills,
everything.
everything.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So everything, you know, you're in and out of trouble, but never really arrested.
Right.
Right. So, you know, when it comes to being addicted to drugs, you know, like you said, you're around people that you think is cool, and really not.
Right.
So there's a lot of bad influence, a lot of people steering you down the wrong way. Unfortunately, your life took a bad turn because of your drug addiction and the people you hung around with. How are you when this happened?
I was 19.
19 years old, just a young woman here out here,
Yep.
young lady. Let's go. Let's talk about that day.
Okay.
So you got arrested.
Well,
Let's talk about the plan first.
yeah. So I talk about the what?
What happened to get you?
So I was with some people who committed an armed robbery.
Mm-hmm.
They shot and killed somebody, and I turned myself in about a month after that because I had indictments for first-degree murder.
Wow, they were
So-
looking for you.
Yeah,
You were You were hiding for a while.
I went to Ohio for about a month.
What made you turn yourself in?
I just needed to go and let them know my side of the story because there was a lot of sides being told, but not my side. Not that, you know.
Right, right.
So I was looking like the bad guy. So I turned myself in, and that was 2003. 2003.
Yeah. So you got a warrant and everybody's looking for you. The police are looking for you because of accessory, or they were.
Well, the charge was first degree murder and armed robbery with a firearm.
So anybody, but it wasn't just you.
It was no.
Right.
It was a group of people. So there was, I want to say, it's been so long ago. It was like 6 people,
Right.
and I think 3 of them were already incarcerated.
Being charged for the same thing.
Yep.
Okay. Same
So
charges.
they had totaled my name, and they were looking for me.
Mm.
So I turned myself in. My son's father, which at the time I didn't know. That's what I was telling you. I found out I was pregnant when after I got arrested. So
So you turn yourself in to tell your side of the story. How did that go for you?
it didn't go too good. It didn't go as planned. No,
Yeah.
but you know, that was when I think about that time in my life now, it feels like it didn't really happen. Like I'm talking to you right now about it, but it's like such a vivid
Right.
memory to me
Right.
because it was just one of the worst, probably one of the worst experiences that I've ever been in my life.
I can
you know?
imagine. I can imagine.
You know, there was a lot of fear in that time. You know, I had just seen somebody get killed. I had fear. There was a lot of things going on and a lot of things being said about me that weren't true.
Like, can you give examples or?
Well, just, you know, I can remember hearing, well, I don't want to go too much into
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Only out of respect in case the victim's family is here
Right,
listening.
right,
I don't want, I don't ever want to disrespect them or
Yeah.
make them feel any worse than they, or
Right,
you know,
I understand.
or interrupt their healing process because I don't know
understand.
where they're at.
Right. God bless to the family.
Yeah.
Everything like that. So okay, so you turn yourself in.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the police station. And
The detectives are
in my mind. It's first 48. You know,
the detectives are asking me questions. I'm telling them I just want to, I need a lawyer.
yeah,
My dad drilled that in my head. You don't talk to nobody unless you have a lawyer. Do not speak to nobody. So it was, the detectives were being super nasty to
Yeah,
me,
I can imagine.
because they're trying to get some truths. And I understand now, why they did the things they said, because I've done watched a million crime shows since then.
yeah.
But, it was one of those things where I felt like my life was over.
Yeah.
When I went to jail, I felt like I was never going to get out. Like I just, and then.
So did you go to court, or they just automatically charge you, booked, and ready to go?
Booked me in, and I was in county jail for a year before I ever got sentenced.
Dang. So
I
you
was
said
fighting it and
fighting the whole time you're in county jail. So
Yeah.
that's that day when you find out your verdict or your your punishment,
yeah.
let's say.
well,
How did that describe that day?
Well, before we go there, let me
Okay.
just say I found out I was 3 weeks pregnant in jail. So I had my whole
Let's not forget about that.
yeah, because this ties into the day I got sentenced.
Okay.
I had my whole entire pregnancy in the county jail, and I actually had my son Christmas Day. So
This is you waiting.
This
to
is
be,
me waiting to be sentenced.
You're-
I haven't been sentenced yet. So I get arrested in April. December, I have my son. And February, I get sentenced. So I have a 2-month-old.
Wow.
Like at this time, like when I got 24 hours with him in the hospital.
Yeah. So I want to touch on that a little bit.
Okay.
Describe having, to anyone who's interested, having a baby in jail. Like, how does that play out?
Oh, it was horrible. I craved Taco Bell the whole time, and every commercial was Taco Bell, which is funny because I just had a baby 6 months ago, or 6 months ago, and I craved Taco Bell too. But,
Congratulations. Taco
so-
Bell. All things Taco Bell.
Yeah, and all I wanted was Taco Bell, and all I got was the bologna sandwiches.
Yeah.
But it was super hard because it was my first baby. So I was young. I was alone.
Man.
By myself. I didn't know what to expect. I was going down to the infirmary for doctor's appointments. I mean, it was just
Did they give
all
you
the
I'm sorry, go ahead.
all the first things you want to do when you have a baby.
Yeah.
I missed them all.
Wow.
Couldn't even get a sonogram picture.
Oh my goodness.
So like it was all those things. But the miracle is that in the county jail, nobody, when you go to have a baby, you can't have anybody in there with you, right? So I was in labor Christmas Eve all the way up till shift change at 6 a.m. in the morning. The officer comes on and she goes, "Where's your family?" And I'm like, "Oh,
I'm allowed that?
I can have my family here." So she allowed my family to come in. So they were there for the birth of my son.
Oh, wow.
So my mom cut the cord. My dad was there. My aunt was there.
Man.
So it was,
And that's
it
not
was a
something they
Christmas
do.
miracle.
Yeah, I was about to say, because that's not something they
No,
do,
they
right?
don't do that. No.
Wow.
So
Shout out to that CO.
yeah.
That's awesome.
And I actually, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but I go back into the jails and I see that CO. So I'm
Yeah.
able to say thank you.
Oh,
20
okay.
years later.
Yep. Wow. That's
Yep.
awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. So when you were giving labor, so when you were pregnant and all that, they didn't give you any kind of special treatment, or they
Nope.
pretty much bare
You
minimum?
get an extra sandwich at night. That's it.
bologna?
Extra bologna sandwich.
Do you eat bologna to this day now? Do you?
No, I don't eat bologna. But I ate them bologna sandwiches in jail.
Yeah.
But I think that was probably the first, my first experience with the Lord as well.
Oh, okay.
Because being in jail, I was alone. and all I did was cry. But as soon as I found out I was pregnant, it was almost like, okay, I have another human I have to live for. So then it gave me the strength to get through what I was going through.
Right.
So
I believe that, we live life according to God's plan. That's something I really believe. But God's plan and God's path.
Yeah.
And God's path is not going to always going to be a straight line. It is not everything's going to be hunky dory.
No.
There's going to be curves. There's going to be hills. There's going to be downs.
Yep.
And it's going to be rough terrain.
But in the end,
He's not going to give you nothing you can't handle.
right.
Right. And so, look at you now. You're here to tell your story. So, so you have the baby.
Yep.
You only got to spend one day.
24 hours with him. And
where does he go after that?
He stayed at the hospital for 3 more days.
In the jail or?
No, it was at Bartow. It was at Bartow Hospital before they stopped having babies there.
Okay.
Excuse me. And that was the hardest day of my life.
Yeah.
That was. I feel like that was harder than getting sentenced. But
yeah.
They're
taking your baby away from you.
Yeah.
You don't know when the next time you're going to see him.
I didn't get to hold him until he was 8 months old after that.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So, I guess the question you asked me was the sentencing.
Yeah.
So then fast forward.
That's fast forward to that day.
Yep. So, that day, I'm standing in front of the judge, and he goes, I believe you are in fear for your life. I believe you, he just went on all these things he believes that were for me.
Yeah.
And then he looks at me and he goes, but I believe you participated in an armed robbery that led to someone's death. And he said 10 years. And in that moment, like my whole, it was like a Lifetime movie.
Yeah.
I screamed, no, my son, my baby, because that's all I was thinking about. I literally, in my head, I was going home that day. They were going to give me probation.
Yeah.
I ain't never been in trouble.
Yeah.
I was in college. I was like, they're not going to. They're
Throw
not
the
going
book at you.
Yeah, they're not going to give me because I
just
had
had a
taken
baby.
I'd taken a plea deal that was like an open trial in front of the judge where they could 0 to 10 years. It was 10 years was the max that they could actually give me. And he gave me the max of it.
Wow.
Yeah. So in that moment, I thought my life was over. My aunt was ready to fight the people. Like it was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, so you hear the words 10 years, gavel slams down, they take you away.
Yeah.
Where did they take you from there?
Back to the jail. You wait on prison. So I waited, I think, like 2 weeks for prison bus to come get me.
Really? That long? I figured it'd be, I should know better, but, sentencing, you go back to your, jail, get your stuff together, and the next day you're being shipped off to prison. But they took you 2 weeks.
Yeah, took about 2 weeks.
How'd that 2 weeks go for you?
I was so depressed. I was postpartum.
I didn't even think about that.
I was postpartum. I was, just, oh my God, my life is over. I in that moment, how am I going to get through that much time?
Yeah.
I couldn't see.
All of a sudden, you're thinking 10 years, dude. Like
away from my son.
Yeah, like that's a long time. Like I don't
Yeah.
even know if I'm going to make it 10 years.
Right.
My life is over.
Right.
Yeah. So you waited 2 weeks, and they finally that day comes where they take you off to prison. What prison did they take you to?
Lowell in Ocala.
Oh, so that's like a notorious prison.
That's like the prison that they take everybody to when they first take them, but it's it's like the biggest prison. It's all the lifers, all the crazies.
Yeah.
It was crazy too.
Describe your first day there.
First day there. If anybody's been to Lowell, if anybody's been to prison, they know that the first day it's these two sisters, and they call them the big booty sisters because they're these two big black ladies, and it's a scare tactic. So as soon as you get in there, they're like, screaming at everybody, and everybody, especially people.
They're prisoners, or are they?
No, they're the COs.
Oh, COs. Okay.
COs. So they're like, when you get there, you gotta take off all your clothes, and you gotta do the whole squat, cough, and now when you first go to prison, you're not used to all this because you're like, oh gosh, this is scary. Well. And they're like, I said cough. Like you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
And it was super intimidating, super scary. Of course you go with a group from the jail. So you're not really alone.
Right.
So there's a group of you guys who are, pulling up to the prison together. So
right. Any of these people you with familiar to you, or your friends?
Yep. I had one of them was my friend from that we were in the jail with together.
Okay.
So, it was super, super scary.
I can imagine, just pulling up young, 19-year-old in the prison like that. Here he is going to spend the next 10 years of your life.
Yep.
So let's fast forward it. You're in prison, let's say a month or two. How are you adjusting to prison life?
Well, you adjust real fast.
Yeah. There was have you experienced any drama at the time? Any violence that for you personally?
No. So for me, once you get to Lowell, you wait there. You're there for however long, and then they ship you to the prison that you're going to be at.
Oh, okay.
So I ended up at Hernando Correctional, and Hernando Correctional, they call it the Cupcake Camp. So it was the YO program.
Oh.
So it's a youthful offender. So if anybody who's under 25 that goes to prison gets put in the youthful offender program.
Oh, okay.
So you're basically you're separated from the lifers and all those people. You're with the younger.
Right.
But then I think it's worse.
Yeah,
it's worse.
I was.
But I think the worst violence I seen in prison was a girl boiled some water and threw it on another girl's face.
Oh my goodness!
Because we had at the Hernando camp, we had microwaves.
Right.
So
wow.
She boiled some water and threw it on a girl's face over another girl.
Oh wow.
Girlfriend drama.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's one of the things I wanted to know. Like, what were some of the things you seen? But
yeah,
that was pretty much a severity at the time.
That was a severity. I think I seen a lot of, a lot of perversion. Definitely,
right.
A lot of girls with other girls, and a lot of, I think the strangest thing was there was a girl, but she didn't look like a girl. She was literally going through the process of being a man.
Right, transitioning.
Yeah, she was transitioning. So the only thing, she didn't transition down there, so she had to be with us. But her name was Ryan, and it looked like Ryan.
Yeah.
Hair. I mean, his chest. He just looked like a guy.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was weird. Super weird.
Oh man,
But
I can imagine that. So here you are, you're in prison. 19 years old. What was some of the biggest challenges you faced while being so young and incarcerated?
I think for me, it was just being away from my family, being away from my son. Prison for women they build families. In the male prisons, you hear they got to be in a gang, got to do this. The women, we got brothers, we got sisters, we got mamas, we got dad. I mean, you build a family in there. So it's not like it is with the men. So you don't see a bunch of violence like you do with the men. So it wasn't really hard for me as far as, because I had found the Lord.
Yeah.
And I literally worked in the chapel at the prison, was always, just I had to do what I had to do to just be sane.
Yeah. So you wasn't involved in anything. You kind of kept to yourself.
Yeah.
Just in the chapel. And
I was the one telling everybody, y'all better stay out of trouble.
So you kind of like big sis.
Fear. You get a spirit of fear in there because you want to go home, and I was sentenced to 10 years, but if on good behavior, you get out in 8.5 years.
Yeah.
But any trouble you get in, they keep you till that 10-year mark. And like, I think for me, it was like, I got to do what I got to do to get home to my son. Like, that was my motivation. My son was my motivation.
Yeah, so that's a great motivation, motivational key. So besides the chapel, was there anything else you was involved with to keep you busy, or?
Nope, it was church. I would be at every church service, every chapel service, every yard event. You know, it's just that's what kept me exercising, walking. You know, there ain't much more you can do in there.
Well, at least you took the right path, even though you were in the situation you were in, because people go to prisons and they don't always go that way.
Right.
You know, they can get in even more trouble.
Yeah.
You know, they say in prison you can get drugs easily in there that you can't out in the streets.
And that is the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at that point I had been clean, before I actually got to prison for over a year. Because I was in the county, and there's drugs in the county too, but I was pregnant. So I wasn't doing anything in the county. So by that time I got to prison, I was clean for over a year. And I was like, I ain't going down that path over there with them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you pretty much, when you go to prison, it's to rehabilitate that person. You get in there, you're like, listen, I'm doing these 10 years. You're already kind of following the Lord, but that took you even more deeper in your relationship with the Lord, right?
Yeah.
Which is awesome because, like I said, it could have took a whole another way. So it's pretty much God that got you through your prison term.
Yes.
And your strength.
Yes.
You got to give yourself credit too. You know what I mean? Because, I think about me going to prison. I'm like, 10 years.
Well, you'd be surprised. It's the ones who only got a year and a day that be acting crazy in there.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's the ones who got a lot of time that aren't trying to. If even the lifers, they're the most laid back ones.
Yeah.
Because they're like, this is my life. This is what I got to make the best out of it.
Yeah.
So you don't see a whole lot of lifers doing crazy stuff either. It's the young, year-to-day people that revolve. While I was in there, I seen several people get out and come back to prison. And it's like, man, if I could just get out.
Yeah. Man, I could imagine that. How was your visitation with family and friends?
My mom brought my son every 3 weeks faithfully for 8.5 years.
Oh, wow.
So I got to be a part of his life, and that's bless you. I raised him. My mom raised him, but like he would come see me every 3 weeks and built a relationship, and so it was hard, but my mom and my dad, they were there.
That's awesome.
They brought my son faithfully. My family was there.
Good, yeah. Because a lot of times people go and they lose everything. They a lot of people I've seen cut off their friends.
Oh,
and families.
I've watched people lose their kid. They go to prison. They lose their kids, lose custody. I was very blessed. Yeah. Because I had a family, a good family. Not everybody in there does. A lot of people don't got family in there. Yeah. And that's, I think, a big part of why I was able to do the right thing too, because shout out to my stepmom. She made sure I had money in my account every week. So I didn't have to go do the crazy stuff to get canteen or, some of them people did. Yeah.
Man, so you had a good support.
Good support system.
Good support system. Man, that's awesome. Man, you kind of really cut my questions in half because, I was thinking, did you, get about depression and,
I did, there was time. Yes, definitely there would be times where I felt so alone. You feel so alone, but you're never alone. Yeah. Did
you have a roommate?
Oh, I was in a open dorm, 70-something women. So we slept in the same. I slept in the same room with 70-something women. Oh, wow. Yeah.
So you didn't have your own cell?
It's
like
open.
Bunk beds?
Yep, it's bunk beds.
Just like in the movies, you see. Really?
the showers, depending on what prison I was at, some of them were open, just like the jail, and some of them were single showers.
Wow.
Most of the toilets, they might have a little wall right here, but you can see each other's head, talk to each other while you're using the bathroom. It's
little to no privacy.
Little to no privacy. So,
what was like the weird thing that you had to have while your time there? Like, what's this little weird thing that you had to have?
Weird thing.
Did you have anything that you held on to? Like,
No, I think the weirdest thing for me when I went was you always got to have shower slides because you ain't gonna go in there with no, like just different things that you don't do at home. You don't wear slides in the shower at home. Yeah. But I didn't really need. I don't think I had any weird thing I really needed. I just.
Yeah. So the power of God is what kept you sane, if I would say.
Yeah.
At the times where you felt at your lowest.
The lowest. I remember one time I was walking the track because we had a track, and I was praying. I said, Lord, if you are here with me, send me a blue butterfly. And I'm walking around that track, and the Lord sent me a blue butterfly. Wow. Like, it's things like that. Like, it's stuff like that I know God is real. Yeah. And like he kept me in those moments. That, and that butterfly going by me in that moment was like, okay, I can do this. Yeah. I can do this another. That was a sign. Like, I'm here with you. I'm going to get you through this. It's kind of like the footprint story, right? Yeah. And then I would have like dreams. I remember I had a dream one time I was getting out in August of 2009. So I held on to this little promise, like I'm going to get out in August. My grandparents died, and I ended up getting out and going to a furlough. Oh, wow. It wasn't out, but I had this dream of August in 2009. I walked through the gates to go out in real clothes. And it happened, but it didn't happen the way I was like, dang. Like,
so you got out to go to the funeral?
I got to go to the funeral. Yeah. Yeah. Was
it like you go to the funeral happens, and then you're right back?
Right back.
So no messing around or
messing
nothing?
Around.
Wow. Yeah. Man, so you really 9.5 years in prison.
8.5.
8.5.
Yep.
Let's fast forward to the last day.
The last.
How did you find out that?
I ended up in work release. So.
Oh, okay. Oh well, one question I want to ask. So you say you were at the camp with the younger women. Mm-hmm. So when you got to a certain age, did you move?
Yep. When I turned 25, I moved over to the adult side.
Okay. How was that?
That's when I seen the girl get burned.
I was about to say that when the whole water thing.
Yeah, that's the water thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was like was that like
she had to be transported by a helicopter.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. How long were you in that before that happened? Like
I don't really remember. I just know I got changed over to 25, and then I was only over there for a little while, and then I went to work release.
Work release is what for the people?
Work release is where you go to you get to go to. It's still state ran, but I got to get a real job. So my last year and a half of being incarcerated, I was in Orlando. So I would leave every day and go to work, and then I'd come back to the facility. So
did you look forward to work release?
Oh yeah,
be out there?
Yeah, work release was great.
Not being confined to walls. Yeah.
So it worked. So in prison, like I was telling you, that I was in this God bubble. So it was like this. I was at church. Well, then I went to work release, and the God bubble was popped, and then I was in the world, and I was like, oh, and that's kind of where I started to walk away from God.
Talk about that.
I walked away from the Lord. I ended up going home pregnant from work release, and probably. So I got out when I was 28. Okay. 28 years old. And I was 3 months pregnant when I got out. So I had to hide that from the correction officers. Yeah. Because if I would have got caught being pregnant, they would have sent me back to prison, and I would have finished out my time.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So I ended up getting out 3 months pregnant. And so the day I got out was, whew, I was like, I made it. I didn't get caught. I survived.
So they told you, okay, what, like 2 weeks in the notice that you'll be out in 2 weeks? Or how long was that period before they say, okay, you'll be out such and such date?
Oh, I knew, your out date.
Yeah, okay.
As long as.
Like the whole time?
Yeah, as long as you know, like your early date. Like if you don't get in any trouble, like this is your early date. I actually ended up getting 30 days. I sent a letter to the judge. They had, I said I waited 2 months for the prison bus. It was 30 days because they didn't give me that time, and I fought for it. And I ended up getting out a month earlier than my actual prison or early date. So,
wow.
See, all the memories are flooding back.
Yeah.
I forgot about all this stuff.
We're bringing it. We're bringing it back. There's some people I can't really see the comments from him with the light shining in my face, but Corey McGowan's on there. Gina's wow. I can't see that. 8.5 to 10 years.
That's T-Baby.
T-Baby. Shout out to T-Baby. So let's talk about the day you get out.
I got out, and my mom came and got me and my son. And I went home, and, a lot of people say, you're institutionalized. It was like I had never been in prison.
As soon as you got out, you were back to.
It was like the switch.
Was it the job, the work release kind of helped you with that a little bit?
It helped me to adjust, but it was like a switch. It just was like, oh. But, I can't say this. Like when you're in prison, you call home for Christmas or you call home for this and you're like, man, I wish I was there. I think I had a little hard time, like adjusting as far as like when we would have those things like Christmas or things like feeling like kind of out of place. So it did take a minute for me to like go, oh, I'm here in this moment. Yeah. And not feel separated from it.
Yeah. So when you're out, how is your relationship with God at this moment?
At this moment, I had totally walked away from the Lord. Yeah. Yeah. So I that's what I really want to jump into because it kind of leads. Yeah. It kind of wraps it all together. Right. But after I had my daughter, I was probably.
But did you say why you walked away from God at this time? Like why?
Because of the relationship I fell into at work release. Yeah. So kind of it was compromise. I compromised. Gotcha. So I knew. You stood against. So yeah, I compromised everything I stood against. And with, one thing I when I go into the jail and I talk to the girls, I tell them a little bit of compromise will open a whole door that you ain't ready for. So I compromised just a little bit of what I believed, to me, it felt like it was a little bit, but really, if we're really being real, that's a lot. Right. I walked into sin, and that sin led to me just going totally a different direction. And then when after I had my daughter, I ended up in another relationship, and he was a drug addict. But he was somebody who he would binge. Right. And then he would be sober for a little while, and then he would binge. Right. So when I got with him, he was sober, and then he went binging. And then it was like back and forth. Well, before I knew it, I was compromising some more, and I was like, well, maybe if I get high with him, he'll stay home. And then next thing I knew, I was in a deeper prison than I had just got out of. So the drug addiction went to a whole nother level after this. And I don't blame nobody but myself. Right. But I ended up in a prison that was way worse than being in prison. Right. Because in prison, I had freedom. Right. I was free in the Lord. But I got out and I got into this mental prison of like drugs. And it got so bad I'm be transparent. I got to the place where I was shooting it up. Oh, wow. And I was, they say once a shooter, always a shooter. Once you'll never, people used to say, she'll never get clean. Right. She'll never, people never, they thought I would never change. Right. I had gotten to that point where I had literally abandoned my kids with my mom. And it had gotten so bad, ended up in jail 4 more times.
After your prison term?
Yep.
Wow. So how long did this life last?
So I probably from the time I relapsed to the time I got totally set free was probably about a year and a half.
Oh.
And that year and a half was the worst year and a half of my life.
So released from prison, and that year and a half was all this.
Yeah. So
back in jail again, couple in and out, drug
4
addiction.
times.
Wow.
That picture you got on that thing, that was one of the mug shots from the 4.
Wow.
Out of the 4.
What are some of these charges?
It was, let me tell you, I went to jail for, I know that it was the Lord's mercy and his grace, because all I went to jail for was a roach that was about this big, And that, I went to jail, ended up getting out, going back on, violation of probation, then getting out and then going back. And I had gotten a check charge, which got dropped, and just a bunch of things that had to do with, being out there on drugs.
Right.
And
how's your relationship with God at this time?
At this time, I was totally far away from the Lord.
Away.
I had a book bag full of clothes, and I was going from pillar to post. I had nothing. I had lost my car, lost my apartment, lost everything. My kids were with my mom. It was the worst time of my life. It was
Worse than prison.
It was worse than prison.
Wow.
At this time, prison would have been better than at this point. But I lost my train of thought there.
No, so I got you. So a year and a half goes by. You're into this life, like I said, in and out of prison, drug addiction. Let's talk about that day where everything changed.
The cop, every time, same cop.
Oh.
Detective, a lady detective. She used to say, "Jody, you're not like the rest of them. I don't know why you don't just go home. Why don't you just go home?" And now that lady, I wish I could see her today. So I hope that she sees this.
Do you know her name?
I don't even remember her name, but she was a woman, and she was an undercover car, and she stopped me in Dundee, Lake Wells, and Lake Hamilton, I think.
Wow.
Came to my house and arrested me one time in front of my kids. Wow. So that was a hard time. But she told me, she goes, "This is not, you're not like the rest of the people that are out here."
Wow.
She used to tell me that. And so I go to jail.
She must have saw something in you. Because
it was the last time.
Yeah.
The last time I went to jail. That's when everything changed. Every time I went to jail, I went to church.
Yeah.
People, they joke about that, but when you're at your worst, you know who to turn to. Right. I was raised in church, and I knew that God was the answer. I just I would use God. It was like, oh, I need God right now. Mm-hmm. But then when I would get out, I'd forget about God.
Right.
So I
think a lot of people have that relationship.
Yeah. You only think about God when things are hard.
Right.
But this last time, I was sitting in a church service, and I smelled like flesh, like hair burning. That smell is very distinct.
You're right.
I smelt it, and I heard the Lord say, "I'm burning away your flesh, and you will never go back to drugs. You'll never go back." And in that
out
moment,
of nowhere?
Yeah, I was in church. I smelt that. It was like a burning smell.
Yeah.
He said, "I'm burning away the flesh, and you'll never go back to drugs."
Wow.
And I held on to that. And when I got out, I told my mom, I'm like, "You don't leave my sight. I don't trust myself." And I remember probably about 2 weeks after I had been out, I went to a friend of mine. She had a outreach house. They used to do little prayer things on the porch. Now, while I was in jail, I smelt that hair burning, the flesh burning. My mom's friend had a vision, an open vision of me, the fireball. And she told my mom, she's like, "Jody's going to be set free." I see her on fire for the Lord. And in this moment, she's seeing this open vision. I'm literally smelling the burning.
Wow.
The Lord is doing. And I get out, and there's something still just in me I'm just not fully surrendered. I can feel it. So we're on our way to her porch. And this is the day I really got set free. Because I on the way there, I cried. I told my mom, if the Lord does not take this addiction from me, I'm leaving tonight and I'm going to get high. And it was the first time I admitted it. It was the first time I didn't want to. I had my babies in the back seat and I was crying my eyes out. And I said, if the Lord doesn't take this addiction from me, I'm leaving tonight. I get on that porch and something just rose up in me, and I just started screaming for freedom, for the Lord to set me free. And one thing the Lord reminded me of, the joy of the Lord is my strength. That's a scripture. And that scripture rose up in me, and I started screaming, without your joy, I have no strength. And I was screaming. My mom's friend, the Lord told her to get oil to anoint me. She went to go get the oil. There was no oil. So she came back, and she whispered to my mom, there's no oil. And the Lord said, go back. She went back to the cabinet to get the oil, and there was oil.
Man.
I mean, it's like the Lord was really like this. A lot of things the Lord was doing in that moment. They anointed me, prayed for me, and I've never been the same. Like, wow. I've never went back to drugs. I've been on fire for the Lord. Like, before I met my husband, I wasn't with anybody for 7 years. Like, I totally,
wow.
The Lord set me free. I haven't drank. I had drugs. At that point, I wasn't with anybody intimately. I was totally it was just me and the Lord. I was like, it was a freedom I had never felt in my life.
Yeah. So you're going through this new change. You're doing great. How are the people that wasn't for it? Like, when people see you doing good, the people that are not on the same path tend to fade away.
Oh yeah, real quick.
You start to noticing that, right?
Yep.
And so the people that, some of the doubters, did you hear a lot of doubts from family members or?
I think that there was people that, in all reality, you're gonna doubt until somebody proves themselves, right?
Because what you've been through.
I did this.
Yeah,
I did this roller coaster ride for all my life.
Exactly. She's gonna do it. She's just playing a role right now. Yeah.
She's went to jail. She just got out. Blah blah blah. I think the biggest thing was my son, because he literally was with me this whole time. He did prison with me. He watched his mom relapse. He watched his mom go to jail. He watched me. I think the biggest thing, and I'm gonna cry. I feel like I'm gonna cry.
It's okay. You want to.
I think the biggest thing for me was him, and I think that today our relationship is so good, and I think the biggest thing was the anger that he felt. And the thing that I was like, I know, and I would tell him, I'm going to come home. I'm going to do the right thing. But he didn't believe me. Why would he?
Why would he?
Why would he?
Past experience.
And, but now he sees, 8 years, because I'm 8 years strong in this.
Right.
When Jesus truly sets you free, he sets you all the way free.
That's
and
right.
I feel like that, for me, I could have just said, oh, I was a drug addict. I was in prison. I was this, I was that. This is just who I am. But when the Lord set me free, I knew he has a purpose and a plan. And I'm not going to just walk, ordinary anymore.
Right.
People need to know there is a Jesus that sets you free.
Exactly.
You don't have to live that way. You don't have to be there.
That's right.
So
how has your relationship with Christ changed your perspective on your past experiences?
Say that one more time.
Your relationship with Christ now, how has it changed your perspective and how you look at your past?
My past. So I think it helps me to have compassion like for people. I have a lot of compassion for the people that are still on drugs, who are still trapped into that life. You know, the insecure little girls who don't realize, you know, there's strength in them. I think it's helped me to see like with a different, like I see with different eyes now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You see a lot of things, you know, your past, you know, your past is your past, and
Right.
you could take your past, learn from the mistakes and some of the ways you know, the road you traveled, and apply that to your new life now.
I think for a little while, it took me a while to not to finally hold my head up,
Right.
because I think I walked around with a lot of shame, as far as oh, she's been to prison, she was on drugs, she did this. So when I would get in certain circles, I would feel less than. You know, I would feel like, maybe I don't fit here. And the Lord had to break that. He had to break that, because when I got into real estate, it was like, no, you belong here. You do belong here.
Right.
You worked to get here just like they worked to get here.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, you know, now when I'm around certain people, I'm not ashamed of my story. You know, I don't always go around telling everybody my story.
Yeah.
You know, I use discernment when somebody needs to hear it, or when they don't, or when there's a person I know they're gonna turn their nose up.
Right.
Yeah. They don't need to hear it.
Yeah. Well, I am looking at the chat, and Jordan is on the chat, and he says, "You make me proud, Mom." There's Gina says, "Praise God." The chat is really, you know, inspired by your story. Gina says, "I remember that day. Alana.
Oh, that was my daughter.
Oh, okay. This Jordan, love you, Mama. Oh, okay. So that's some of the, you know, outpours that's going on in the chat. For everybody that's on the chat, if you can, please share the story. So, like, you mentioned, you know, you're you're a realtor now. You own your own business. What role? How do I say this? I'm trying to get the right word to say. How has your past, you know, the prison term, the drug addiction, shaped the way you approach your career and personal relationships? If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. You know, there are a lot of people who they can't relate to people who've struggled in life. And I think for me and my business and real estate and everything, I try to help everybody. I don't look at somebody and say, oh, they don't look like they got the credit score or the finances. You know what I mean? And honestly, I look at every person like, oh, maybe I can help them.
Yeah.
You know, get their first purchase, and you know how that would change their life. You know, be a homeowner.
Yeah.
You know, so I look at things like that. I tell everybody, like, reach out to me. I don't care, you know, if you don't have a credit score or you don't, you know.
Don't be ashamed to come to me and tell me your numbers. My preferred lender, he's great, and he tells you everything that you need to do to get there. Yeah.
Like, so it's like, you may not be ready today, but you could be ready by next year.
Yeah. And
and
from what your experience is, you know, you can help them because you know the struggles, you know what it's like. That's like my everyday life. I'm pretty good in life right now, but I worked hard to get where I'm at. You know, I make good money with the career that I'm in. But when I see, you know, friends that are not in the same level, I would never look at them down or, you know, I just give them my advice to things that I've done. You know, like, for instance, like few years ago, I decided I wanted to be a repo man. But it lasted one day because it was so personal to me. Like, how am I going to take these people's car when I've had my car repo, you know?
Yeah.
And I just told the guys that this is not going to work out for me because this is too personal for me. You know, I want to be the reverse of a repo.
Yeah,
I want to help you keep your car.
I don't think I could do that job.
Yeah, yeah. So that's, you know, your personal life. It does, you know,
It
what you've been
does.
through, help, you know, to get you
It
to your
does.
personal.
I recently had to go to the jail to try to get someone's husband to sign for their a listening agreement. So that was kind of interesting, going in as a official, like a,
Yeah.
you know, someone to the jail to get paperwork signed. I'm like, okay, this is definitely different. 'Cause I remember being on that side.
Yeah.
And like for him, he, you know, you could tell he was kind of like uncomfortable, but like, I'm just like, it's okay. Like I've been where you're at.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. Like, I'm not looking at you like you're, you know, lower than me just because now I'm in this place and I'm not there anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. So we're gonna wrap this up, but I got two more things I want to,
Okay.
you know, get it more familiar with. I want to talk about your support system
Okay.
right now. Like, who are some of the people that they're here for you all the time? They're got words of encouragement, keep you on that path. Like, let's show them love.
Yeah, my husband, my mom, my dad, you know, my family, but also my church.
Yes.
I go to the dwelling place in Winter Haven, and that's my family.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's my, you know, they say blood's thicker than, or however that it's not always like that.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes
strangers are the ones that
are closer to
right,
you.
right.
And I
support
think
you more.
my dwelling place, Winter Haven.
Hey guys.
It's, you know, I think too, there's several people that have stories like mine there, you know,
Right.
we're not, you know, you realize, hey, you're not alone in this.
Right.
You realize, hey, there are other people who have been where you were and they have overcome just like you.
Right. Right.
So-
And you say you do go to prisons and jails
So
too?
I was going to I have a ministry that goes to the jail, but since I got pregnant, there's a team that goes in at the Polk County Jail for the women. And then next March, I think in March, I don't remember the dates, but I'm going to Lowell for a big event
Wow.
on the compound.
Wow.
So this is the first
This
ever.
the first time going back to Lowell, or?
Nope, this is my second time going
okay.
back to Lowell. So I was going back to the prisons. I went back to the work release to speak to the women. But Teresa Kemp, she was a person that was a big role in my life too. Breaking Chains Ministry. I met her while she was coming in the jail. And she's the one who got me involved in going back into the jail ministries. And she even paid for my real estate class.
Wow.
She's like, I believe in you and I believe you can do this.
Say her name again.
Teresa Kemp. She may not be on here, but she definitely sowed into my life. She ministered to me. And I think like she was one of the people that really inspired me that I want to go back into the jails. I want to go back into the prisons and, you know, so I did that for a little while. And then, you know, I got married and I had another baby and, you know, and that's a whole testimony in itself because the Lord, you know, the Lord is good. And I waited 7 long years for him and God gave me a good one.
Man,
so
that's great to hear, man. You know, your story, like you're crying and I'm over here like I'm getting the knot in my throat, man. I'm trying to, you know, get through this. And this is the first time, like I said, I've done this about 4 or 5 times. And this is the first time I really like get that feeling like I'm about to cry, man. You know, I don't have a lot of hair, but the hairs I do have, they're standing up, and it's your story, your testimony is truly inspiring.
Hey, I know Corey's on. You can ask him how wild I was. So then you can tell, like,
when I told
the
Corey
before and after.
when I told Corey, you know, I reached out because when I saw your testimony on Facebook, and I'm like, see, this happens organically. That's how I did it last time with Tony Acosta. He did his testimony on Facebook, and I've read it. I actually did the same thing. It's weird because, you know, you guys are so similar. You're realtors now, you know, and I saw his testimony. It was a long one, but I'm scrolling, and I seen it. I just kept scrolling. But something told me to stop and go back and read this story. And I read this story, and I'm like, I got to reach out to him. Maybe let's see if he wants to, you know, let the people know, share it with people. And that's the same thing that happened with yours. I was scrolling, and I saw, you know, the testimony, but then I kept scrolling, but what caught my eye is your mugshot that you posted there. Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute. You know what I'm saying? Let me read this. And then I read it, and then it was just like, oh, wow. I have to, you know, reach out to her and get her testimony, see if she's willing to share it with people. This is on the comment page. Tyann Chisholm.
That's my mom.
The dwelling place rocks. She goes, I'm Jody's mom, and she's come a long way. So proud of her. Jesus is faithful.
Yeah, that's a praying mama right there.
Shout out to you, mama. I do want to wrap this up with one final thing. Actually, two final things. All right. But I want to, what message do you have for others who are in a similar situation that you once were in?
I can only say that there is one thing that set me free, and that's Jesus. Without Jesus, I couldn't be where I am today. AA didn't work. None of that stuff for me worked. It was completely surrendering to Jesus and being desperate. Because that night on that porch, I was desperate for freedom. And I think until you get desperate, you'll never get to that place of true freedom. Yes. You got to be desperate for a change.
Right. And you got to be, you got to be desperate. You got to be willing to change, because God's only going to get you.
He's only going to do
that point.
Yeah.
You got to meet him halfway.
You got to surrender.
Yeah. A lot of people pray for things, you know, where they're going through in life hard times, and they pray.
It's a matter of the heart.
Yeah, and you know, just because you pray doesn't exactly mean it's going to happen when you want it to happen.
Right.
But you also got to meet him halfway.
Yes.
He's not going to be, you know, you're going to be sitting around just praying and hope things happen. You know what I mean? A lot of people think that's the case, but and when I pray, it's supposed to happen right away. You're not going to get the pray for the butterfly. The butterfly is right. That doesn't happen. Right. So
God knew I needed it in that moment, though. Yeah. That's how good he is. He's real. And I think that's the message that I really want to get across is that God is real. Yes. Like, he is real. And I think we grow up with, you know, especially people like me who grew up in church. We went to church. It's just, you know, you ask people, do you know Jesus? Yeah, I know Jesus. But do you know Jesus? Because if you know Jesus, you know, he set you free. Like, you don't have to be bound up by nothing. Right. Like, I'm completely free. Ooh. I'm free. Like, I can live with freedom, with joy. The joy of the Lord is my strength. Yes. Like, I have the joy of the Lord, and he gives me strength every day.
Man, that's awesome.
And and anybody can live like that.
Yeah. And at times, you know, for the people that are out there listening, and this is just me speaking from my own experience. Right. For me, like, I know it's hard to believe in Jesus, you know, believe in God and the whole story. It's hard sometimes because you go through your death, you know, you lose your loved ones, you lose people close to you, and you're like, why do you take them away? You go through drug addiction, being molested early. You go through these hard times. And you're like, man, God, if you're out there, like, why am I going through this? Why is this happening? It's not easy to believe in God. You know what I mean? But you have to know that God, like I said, God is real. God is not going to give you anything you can't handle. Yes, it's not always going to be easy. It's not. That path that God laid out for you has plenty of curves.
Well, I think that's what people think, oh, I come to Christ and everything's perfect. Right. It's no. Because the Bible even talks about take joy in your struggles. Yeah. Take joy. You know, there's gonna be things in life that are hard. Right. And it doesn't. you give your life to Jesus don't mean your life is going to be perfect.
Right.
You're going to still go through things.
Right. And Jesus, you know, and I'm not no super religious person, but like he comes from where we come from. Like when they tell the story, he was in the manger. You know where that manger was at? In the streets, in quote unquote hood area. It wasn't pearly gates, and it wasn't in a big palace in this castle, and everything was no, he was in the slums.
Yeah.
Next to the cows and it's a manger. It smells like poop everywhere.
Right.
So God, Jesus came from that.
He's been through everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And so people out there, you listen to Jody's story, testimony.
He's not a respecter of persons. If he changed me, he can change you.
Yes.
That's it.
And yes, and we're going to end it just like that. I ain't know much more I can say except for, Jody, I appreciate you taking your time out. Did we miss anything? Anything you really want to stress or cover that we didn't cover?
I'll probably leave and go, dang, why did I say
it's going to happen. It happens all the time.
But I thank you for having me. And
yes.
I was excited just to, come tell my story.
Yeah.
Really I just like to testify how good God is and what he's done for me.
Amen.
So,
Amen.
anyway,
Praise Jesus.
Shout out to everybody that's on the live. Please share. Gina's been there the whole time.
Gina was another one that prayed for me.
William Pierre's on there. I appreciate everyone that's tapped in. Any one of us that needs a story to be told, and you're willing to share with people, please feel free to reach out to me. My platform is always open to you guys, or anyone going through it. I feel like, and you can tell me no. I feel like we should end it in prayer. So you want to say a prayer? All right. So again, thank you again, Jody. Yep. Like I said, is anyone out there that want to share their testimony with me? Please reach out to my DMs. Thank you again. This has been Conversations with Olu. I am Olu. Thank you again. And go ahead.
Father God, I just thank you for this day. I thank you for allowing me to come on this platform and share your goodness, Lord. I just pray if there's anybody listening or anybody who sees this and they're struggling and they feel like they have no hope, Lord, I just pray right now that you touch them, that you pierce their hearts. Lord, I pray right now that the same fire of God that touched my life will touch theirs. Lord, I just pray right now in Jesus' name that every mind be made whole and every heart be healed in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you again, Jody. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a good night.
All right.
Good?
Okay. That was good, right?